Have a ridiculous amount of teams to go through right now. We're going to be doing this today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. We are going to be spending a ton of times making dynasty trades and looking at rosters. But as I set up this live stream, make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And of course, if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football and you want to join the flock, you want access to all of our Dynasty rankings, one quarterback, super flex, rookie, the whole 9 yards, access to all your favorite Dynasty creators rankings, all can be found on flockfantasy.com. And when you sign up to flockfantasy.com with promo code FLOCK, you are going to get 30% off any subscription. And with the Mother Flocker tier, you are going to get your team broken down by yours truly with promo code FLOCK. You can find the link in the live chat. You can find it in the description. You can find it in the comment section. And I think that should be about it. Let's go ahead and let's pull up this first team that we have. And this is going to be from Klaus. Thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Says 10 team PPR super flex. Feel free to use for YouTube. Thanks, Mason. No, thank you so much, my man. Let's go down and let's pull this up real quick. It's going to be a regular league in terms of the majority of the scoring. Really, the only thing that I want to point out, 6-point passing touchdown format rather than 4-point. So rushing upside for the quarterback position, still going to be great. But at the same time, I mean, it's not going to matter as much as it would in a 4-point passing touchdown league. Let's pull this around to the actual roster itself. Going to be super flex, where we're starting 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, and 3 flex spots to go along with it. So if I'm going to get out my napkin math here, we're going to be starting 10 total players. So a very standard league, like not too much that we need to actually be discussing here. It looks like at quarterback, we're rolling with Deshaun Watson as well as Tua. Let me know what y'all think about this. I mean, please let me know what you think in the live chat right now. With Tua, why does nobody like him? I'm not even like the biggest Tua fan, but it just seems like with how well Tua played at times last year, that you would find some massive Tua fans, that Tua would have people advocating that he should be a 2nd round startup pick. Like, you would assume that you would occasionally get someone saying that. And I don't know if I've ever met someone who is in love with Tua. Personally, I think his price point in Dynasty is very reasonable. If we are going to be looking at Deshaun Watson and Tua together, I think Watson can very easily be a quarterback 1 in fantasy. I think Tua as your quarterback 2 is a very nice guy to have. Now, beyond that, we don't really have anybody else down there on the bench at the quarterback position that's noteworthy. We have a few rookie picks that we're going to be able to go through and play around with, but we'll get to that a little later on. But Ian says because all he needs is 1 hit and his career is over. There's nobody else in the league like that. My friend, I'd say that's anybody in the league. City says, I think it's the concussion issue that he may go out for any long period of time. Okay, I mean, maybe that is the case. But if you remember, I mean, Brandon Cooks had the similar thing where everybody thought that Brandon Cooks was 1 hit from being out of the NFL. And now Brandon Cooks getting traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Cooks still sticking around for God knows how long. Now, going over to the running back room, we have, in my mind, a lot of players that have upside, but not necessarily a guaranteed workload in terms of getting the 300-plus touches baked in immediately. We have Tony Pollard, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins in the starting lineup. Then going down there to the bench, I mean, we don't really have too many players on the bench itself. I believe I saw that we ended up with Isaiah Pacheco on the taxi squad, though, which does put us in a very good position, especially when we're looking at all of our rookie picks. Let me see if I can actually zoom in for y'all here a little bit. Let me know if y'all can see this. But with the rookie picks, we have the 101, and then a ton after that. We'll get to the strategy at the very end. So adding in Bijan Robinson here will be great. I'm not going to lie. I personally would not mind going through and seeing what kind of price point we could get for Tony Pollard. With Tony Pollard, the man is an elite level talent. If you were looking at how damn good he was from a per touch perspective, really through the first, I mean, his entire rookie contract, if we're going to be honest, hyper efficient compared to Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, Pollard has been phenomenal. Now that you have Ezekiel Elliott gone, it looks like that workload's going to be much stronger. I've seen some people advocating for Tony Pollard to just be a guaranteed locked and loaded top 10 running back. Where in my mind, I think that the Dallas Cowboys are a very likely landing spot to bring in another RB in to try to recreate what they've had over the past few years with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, whereas maybe Tony Pollard's not getting 45% of the touches. Maybe instead he's getting 55% to 60%. But I could also see the efficiency falling down just a bit. So I think Pollard is a very strong high-end RB2. But at the end of the day, if we could find someone that is head over heels for him, and if we could go through and say sell Tony Pollard for the 105, I personally would go ahead and do that. I mean, one thing that we also need to point out with Tony Pollard is, well, yeah, it doesn't necessarily seem like he is that old. It seems like he just got to the NFL and he is just now breaking out. The man's about to turn 26. The man's about to turn 26 and doesn't have a long-term contract. So I think he's a potential sell, even if he's a phenomenal talent. With Akers, with Dobbins, with Pacheco, all three of these guys have upside if they actually have the starting job next year. But unlike Tony Pollard, they don't really have the fanboys that you're going to find where we can get some phenomenal price tag for him. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I'd imagine that out of that group of three players, probably have one of those guys seeing significant competition added in with the NFL draft. But you probably have two of those guys being just fine till we get to the season. And if we're adding Bijan Robinson in here, I think we're going to be in a phenomenal spot. Now, going over to wide receiver, we have Christian Watson, Christian Kirk, Allen Lazard, now with the Jets. And then going down to the bench, we have, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Wan'Dale Robinson. In my mind, wide receiver is definitely the weak point of this team. I mean, going down there to the taxi squad, we don't have any help there either. I mean, if we were sitting with Christian Watson as our wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in Dynasty, I am in love. Because with Christian Watson there, this is a player that, while may not necessarily have the highest target floor, at the end of the day, it will be a player that has an incredibly high ceiling based off of his talent. Now, I don't necessarily know what we should be assuming we get in terms of Jordan Love's target quality this next year. Like, I really don't know how Jordan Love is going to play, and I think it's impossible for anybody to know that at this point. So I think Watson has it in the range of outcomes to fall down to maybe be a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. But at the same time, it's a possibility that he is a top 10 guy. That's why I really like to have him as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, because I feel like you have a wider range of outcomes, but he does have that incredibly high ceiling. With Christian Kirk, I would rather have him kind of as a wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. So I would really like to upgrade this wide receiver room, both in terms of the top end talent as well as the depth overall. Going over to tight end, I'm not too concerned. This isn't a tight end premium format. We have Dalton Schultz. I don't know where Dalton Schultz will end up, but I'm fine with it. We also have David Njoku. And we're great if we have David Njoku as well. But now let's go over and let's look at the rookie draft here, because in my mind, this is the number one thing that we need to be looking at with this team. Whereas it's a good team, has decent pieces, but definitely needs to be making some additions. 101, we add in Bijan Robinson, and we are chilling, relaxing on an island, drinking a smoothie, drinking a pina colada. We're perfectly fine there. Now, once we move down the draft board, 104, in my mind, it's actually going to be a pick that really helps this team. Because going back to what we were looking at quarterback, we have Deshaun Watson, Tua, and that is legitimately it. So if we are able to go through and bring in the 104 being Anthony Richardson, we bring in Anthony Richardson as our quarterback 3. Well, yeah, his floor may be very low. The ceiling could be incredibly high with the kind of rushing upside that he has. So bringing in a quarterback, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, love that 104 for this team. Going over to 107, in my mind, this is also a great spot to be in with the tier break. We're at 107. We are going to be looking at one of 3 players. We're going to be looking at Jackson Smith-Njigba. If he falls, perfect. Jahmyr Gibbs or Will Levis. In my mind, I wouldn't even mind taking Will Levis, because going through this team, once we add in Bijan Robinson, we have more than enough running back depth. And then we're also sitting at pick 8, pick 9, and pick 10. Pick 8, pick 9, pick 10. I think there you're going to be looking at Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zach Charbonnet, and you can just take them back to back to back. I think you're in a phenomenal situation with how these tiers break down, because in my mind, after 10, that's when you get the significant fall off. So I think 7, 8, 9, 10 we are in a phenomenal place to be, and we are just going to be getting the leftovers from the main course of this rookie draft. So the main course of this rookie draft, in my mind, are going to be those top 10 players: Bijan, Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, JSN, Gibbs, Johnston, Addison, Zach Charbonnet. I think 7 through 10, we just take the guys that are left over. And I think you're most likely going to be coming away with 2 running backs total with Bijan Robinson and Zach Charbonnet, 2 wide receivers total, most likely with Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, and then possibly a quarterback or 2 with Anthony Richardson, Will Levis. So I think we are in a phenomenal situation, my friend. Once we add those pieces to this team, obviously not every single one of those players will hit, but I think we'll have enough firepower from this year's rookie draft to kind of rejuvenate this overall team, have a few massive hits like Bijan Robinson essentially immediately, where I'm really excited about this team's future. If we were to go through and try to make any changes, I don't really see much we could do. If you wanted to like trade Christian Kirk and go out there and get Amari Cooper to stack up with Deshaun Watson, have a double stack of Amari Cooper and David Njoku, possibly, that could be something that you're looking at. If you wanted to go through and maybe move off of Tony Pollard, pick up Nick Chubb, and then also get a little small piece back as well, I would kind of like that. But overall, great team, great position to be in. I really like it, my friend. But I think that should be about it. Thank you again so much. And as always, if you have anything that you want to see improved with vlogfantasy.com, please do not hesitate. Reach out to me. I'd be super happy to get whatever you want done sent over to the developers and see if we can get that done for you, my friend. But okay, let's go through and find our next one. Thank you so much again. Dylan says, how do I get the Flock to break down my Dynasty team? So if you've already signed up to vlogfantasy.com with the Mother Flocker tier and promo code Flock, just make sure you are in our Discord chat, which you can find it on vlogfantasy.com, just the button at the very top. Then with the setup tab here, go through and send your vlogfantasy.com username and join here. Then you'll get all the Discord roles and you'll have access to all the chats. And you just have to send your team in the roster submission tab, and I'll just go ahead and get that made for you. I'll either get it as a private podcast and personally DM it to you, or live stream it on YouTube and then personally DM you the link and the time of the breakdown. But thank you again. But our next one, we are going to go through and look at Bonsai's team. And actually, right before we get into this, I'm sorry, we have a donation coming out from Batback Gaming. Happy to see you out here, my friend. Says, what's good, Mason? Would you trade Pitts for the 107, 211, David Njoku, and a second and a 12-team PPR tight end premium Dynasty League? Honestly, no, I wouldn't do this. I mean, if you're looking at Kyle Pitts, yeah, this past season was horrible, but if you were looking at the reason why, it was the Atlanta Falcons offense. The Atlanta Falcons had the 3rd worst passing offense in the past 10 years of the NFL this season. They were overshadowed by how bad the Chicago Bears passing offense was, where Chicago had the worst passing offense since, I think, 2009, like the worst passing offense in 15 years, pretty much. But Atlanta was horrible as well. I think Atlanta's offense will get better. I think at the same time, Kyle Pitts is an incredibly talented player, and I don't like that price point. Now, going over to Bonsai's team, thank you again, my friend. It's a 10-team, 1-quarterback PPR standard settings. Realistically, where's this team at? Should I be looking to trade for a veteran wide receiver? Also, I have a compensatory 111 for winning the losers bracket, which isn't listed. Ignore the starting lineup. I can edit it with the guys sitting on my IR. Love the content. Happy to be a Mother Flocker. Thank you so much again, my friend. I truly, truly do appreciate it. Gonna be super happy to look into this. And pulling this up, keep in mind, it's a 1-quarterback league. It's a 1-quarterback, 10-team league where if we go through and count out the starting lineup spots here, I believe with my napkin math, we are going to be starting a total of 9 players. Let me just double check. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a total of 9 players in here. So if we are going to be looking at 9 offensive players in a 10-team league, we have 90 total players being started. So in my mind, this is a team that is all about studs, studs, studs. The depth of the roster could not matter less. So if we are going to be looking at Allen at quarterback, Great spot to be in right away. I mean, obviously, with it being a one quarterback league, it's not as much of an advantage having Josh Allen, but still something you're very excited about. Going down to the bench, I'm fine having Russell Wilson as your quarterback too there. I mean, it's a one quarterback league. Who really cares? I don't know if we have anybody on the IR. Let me just go ahead and try to find that. Okay, no, we do not. I thought we saw that you had okay, no, Breece Hall's on the bench. I was going to say, I thought Breece Hall was on the IR or something. But going over to running back, is where we actually have to start paying attention because we don't just have Josh Allen and can ride it out from there. So at RB, we have Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins in the starting lineup. But we have some very good players down there on the bench. I mean, we have Breece Hall on the bench. Obviously, it's a little bit deceiving here. And then if we're going to be looking at Khalil Herbert, I know that some people are excited about him, and I'll say yes, he's been phenomenal at times. But the same time with Khalil Herbert, this is a running back that, in my mind, is hard to be too excited about because he does not catch the ball at all, and Justin Fields will vulture rushing touchdowns. So if we assume Khalil Herbert is everything you've wanted, he gets to week 1 and somehow, some way is the starting running back for the Chicago Bears. He's been hyper efficient through his NFL career, averaging 5 yards per carry. But the same time, the man in 30 total games played, he has 23 receptions in comparison to over 230 carries. He just doesn't catch the ball. So with this being a full PPR format, and with us talking about us only really caring about the top end players, I don't want to stress about Khalil Herbert at all. I think that he is going to be the first player I'm going to try to go through and look to sell here if we can generate any hype with him whatsoever, because I know there are people that really like Herbert. Now, going over to the wide receiver room, we're going to be rolling with Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, and then down there on the bench, we're going to be rolling with Terrace Marshall. Remember how high Russell Gage is being drafted in best ball last year? That is very funny to look back on. But we even have George Pickens. So this is a big thing that I want to stress, especially when we're going to be looking at these rookie picks here. In my mind, going back to what we were discussing about this being a 10-team league, it's a little more shallow where we should be focusing on bringing in players with true league-winning upside. Where in my mind, these players like Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy, George Pickens, Brandon Ayuk, they are very valuable in a league where you have to start 11 guys and it's a 12-team league. Because in that league, finding a wide receiver 3, finding a wide receiver 2 to go through and just play on a week-to-week basis is a very difficult task. Whereas here, it's not difficult. Here, it's going to be very easy, and they're never really going to be moving the needle for you. Like you have, like we already discussed, George Pickens down there on the taxi squad. You have Breece Hall on the bench. So we can assume that they're going to be, say, both Deontay Johnson and George Pickens on the bench before we add any rookies onto this team. What I would really like to see is some kind of 2-for-1 deal where we're able to identify maybe a player that you're not as excited about as you once were. Maybe you don't love the landing spot in Carolina for Miles Sanders and you find someone else in your league that really does. And then we go through and we try to package together, and this is just an example. I'm not telling you to sell Miles Sanders, but we go through and we try to package together that running back with one of our depth wide receivers to just get someone we're more excited about in the starting lineup. In my mind, that's how we're going to optimize for this format in particular. So if at that point we could go through and say we sell Miles Sanders and Deontay Johnson, and we don't even need to have a massive upgrade. If we can just go out there and go, let's sell Miles Sanders, Deontay Johnson, and get back Zach Charbonnet. I mean, I honestly would be fine with that, even if it doesn't sound like we're getting quote-unquote enough there. Going back to what we're discussing, I mean, I'm fine to overpay. I'm willing to pay in a league like this 3 dimes to get a quarter. I think that makes a lot of sense, to be honest. Now, going down to the rookie picks, it is funny seeing that we are going to the 7th round here with rookies. Of course, I mean, once we get past like the late 2nd or a beginning of the 3rd round, then at that point, your rookie draft is just a complete lottery. Like once we're getting down to the 6th, 7th round, those are players that you would literally rather have the guys currently on your bench. Like you're not even going to be making those picks. But that's just a quick side note. What I really like to see is the fact we're adding in Bijan Robinson. And that goes right back to me saying, okay, well, We're adding in Bijan Robinson. We're adding in Breece Hall from the bench into this starting lineup. So then at that point, we are going to have like 3 or 4 startable guys on a week-to-week basis that project to be on our bench. And that's why I'm trying to get us to make one of those 2-for-1 deals to find that upgrade in the starting lineup. What I think we could also do in terms of making the 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals to just try to improve where we can is in a 1 quarterback format, that 104 pick in my mind, really crappy spot to be in. Because in my mind, you really want that top 3 pick where 101 will be Bijan Robinson. Then 102, most likely Jackson Smith and Jigba. 103, most likely Jahmyr Gibbs. But regardless, I think after 3, you're going to have that teardrop down to the 104. I really don't see how Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston helps this team out too much, where we already have guys like Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, all projected to be on the bench. So what I wouldn't mind at all is if we could go through, if we could approach the owner that's sitting at the 103, the owner that's sitting at the 102, and go, hey man, I have a ton of rookie picks. I see that you don't have that many. I would love to trade you the 104. I'd love to trade you the 207 and the 307 to move up to the 103, if that makes sense. And then of course you're giving yourself a little wiggle room where he shoots you down with that one. Then at that point, we're able to say, okay, well, how about instead of going the 207, 307, we go with the 207 and 302, and you just kind of work your way up there a bit, because I would really like to move that 104 to get up to 102, 103 and get someone that in my mind can actually make a difference with this team rather than just continuously adding depth that we already have. I mean, you're in a great spot to be making these plays. What I also love about this team is if we get halfway through the year and we realize, oh crap, this is a contending roster. I mean, we have a phenomenal start. We are sitting at 4-2. I mean, we have players breaking out. Breece Hall is the running back 1 in fantasy. Then at that point, we have 3 future first. At that point, we can go, okay, yeah, we are in a great spot. We're 4-2, but we have the firepower to make that real massive move. Where then at that point, we can go through and maybe the Justin Jefferson owner is a rebuilding team and they're trying to move off of, and they're trying to get additional future picks. And we go through and we say, hey man, I'll give you, a younger wide receiver will hook you up with Devonta Smith. You can build around him for the long term. And we'll also give you an extra future first, an extra future second, and then just work that future draft capital into being able to upgrade to those elite level assets during this season. You have so much flexibility to play around with this team. I think it puts you in a phenomenal situation, but I do want to stress every move that we should be making from here on out with this team in particular, where we have so many assets to be playing around with and so few starting lineup spots, considering it's only a 10-team league, is 2-for-1, 3-for-1 deals. Every trade that we are going to be making, we are going to be trying to get the best player in the deal back, even if that means we're sacrificing a little bit of depth, because we have more than enough depth to go around. And at the same time, this format doesn't really require that much depth. But thank you again, as always, for being a member of the flock, my friend. I really hope that that was able to help you out, even if it was just slightly. Thank you for everything. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, reach out to me. If you want any improvement at flockfantasy.com, which we are rolling out some pretty big improvements, I think, tomorrow and forever. We're going to be improving this site. But if you want any other thing that you're not currently seeing, reach out to me and I'd be happy to get it done. Now, going over to Mr. Bradley. Let's pull this one up. Thank you so much again, my friend. It's a 12-team PPR Superflex League. Really debating on what position needs the most upgrading. Picks obviously don't help at the moment. Pickett is average at best, and running backs are concerning to me outside of Kenneth Walker. What are your thoughts? Feel free to use in a podcast, YouTube, or etc. Now, thank you so much. I'll say, we do have some picks. It's not like the picks are going to be making the biggest difference. 109, 111, but we still have our own future picks as well. So I don't want to say that picks aren't going to help at all. They're definitely a nice starting spot, but we should probably just start off by looking at the league settings that we are going to have here. If we're going to be looking at the settings, a main thing that I want to be pointing out is the fact that everything is normal. It's PPR, normal top to bottom. We don't really need to be making any adjustments there. Now, going over to what we will be looking at with, I think that's the wrong direction. Can we not pull it up this way? Okay, perfect. Pulling up the team will be Superflex. And I am very happy to see that we have Joe Burrow based on the way that you were selling it earlier on. I was worried that we were rolling with Kenny Pickett as our QB1. With Pickett, I don't mind him actually. I mean, I completely understand. Yeah, not a great rookie season, but in my mind, it wasn't that bad either. And you have him going into year 2, surrounded by a good coaching staff, pretty good weapons as well. I mean, we have George Pickens. We have Deontay Johnson. I actually don't mind at all having Kenny Pickett as our quarterback too. I understand that if we can upgrade, we definitely want to, but it's not, in my mind, a necessity that we go through and make that move. We have Taylor Heineke, possibly the starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Probably not. We have Zach Wilson, possibly a future Hall of Fame level quarterback. Probably not. We have Tyler Huntley, Pro Bowler. I mean, that definitely happened. So it would be nice to upgrade at quarterback. I don't want to say it wouldn't, but going over to running back, Kenneth Walker, Ramondre Stevenson, Dameon Pierce, A.J. Dillon. My friend, I don't know why you're saying that you don't like this room. I mean, with Ramondre Stevenson, at times this past year, the man was literally prime Alvin Kamara. There was a stretch of games where Ramondre Stevenson was going out there and just consistently seeing 11, 9, 12 targets a game. It was ridiculous. He's the leading receiver pretty much for the New England Patriots. Kenneth Walker, I think he's the top 3 running back in Dynasty. I mean, I was very impressed with what he had as a pass catcher this past year. Dameon Pierce, someone that I didn't draft in enough leagues, but honestly, at the end of the day, Dameon Pierce had a very strong rookie season. I wouldn't tell too many people to sell him now. We were saying to sell him during the rookie year just because the draft capital, level of team investment, we know historically speaking, teams are quick to move on from those day 3 running backs. But now I think a lot of people kind of understand that at the same time where you're not able to get the same price point for Dameon Pierce that you could have just last year. So, I mean, Dameon Pierce's price has come down, even though in my mind, situation's kind of only gotten better. A.J. Dillon, not great with Aaron Jones restructuring his deal, but he's your running back 4. I think A.J. Dillon's fine to have as a running back 4. Down there in the bench, we have Deontay Foreman going over to the Chicago Bears. I mean, Deontay Foreman is just a handcuff level running back. Raheem Mostert signs in Miami. I'm assuming Miami still brings in someone. So I actually am fine with where we stand at running back. Wide receiver, we're rolling T. Higgins, wide receiver 1 to pair up with Joe Burrow. I do believe T. Higgins is a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, albeit a low-end wide receiver 1. I mean, I'd be ecstatic if he was our wide receiver 2. But we have Jahan Dotson, wide receiver 2. In my mind, Jahan Dotson has a ton of promise. We have Tyler Lockett, Donovan Peoples-Jones down there on the bench as some depth. But overall, not too much at wide receiver beyond T. Higgins and Jahan Dotson. I'll say specifically with this league, I mean, we're going through and we are starting a total of 9 players on a week-to-week basis. So I'm not too worried about building out depth, very similar to what we were talking about with the team right before this. I would actually rather just see those top-end players. And going over to tight ends, Evan Ingram, and then down there on the bench, Taysom Hill, Hayden Hurst, Dalton Schultz. We're fine at tight end. I don't think we need to be making too many adjustments. But from an aerial point of view, with this team, while we were saying that Kenny Pickett is a quarterback that I actually think is maybe a tiny bit undervalued in Dynasty at the moment, I think Kenny Pickett did show some promise. Specifically because this is a super flex league where we are only going to be starting 9 total players. I would be fine if we wanted to go through an upgrade at quarterback 2. Because the fewer of those flexes that we are going to have, the fewer potential wide receivers that we can start, just inherently what's going to happen is those quarterbacks are going to be more and more important. They're going to take a higher percentage of your starting lineup output on a week-to-week basis. So if you get the opportunity to at any point actually roll out 2 elite starting quarterbacks each and every week, then your team's, I don't want to say unbeatable, but those 2 elite level quarterbacks in a shallow starting lineup like this can cover up for weaknesses elsewhere in the lineup. They will account for such a high percentage of your starting lineup output each and every week that it won't freaking matter if your wide receiver 3 is below average, if your wide receiver 4 is below average. So if we are able to go through and say find a discount elite level quarterback, I mean, we're definitely going to go through and try to. Like I said, I'm not the Biggest Kenny Pickett hater. Now, 109, 111. 109, you're going to be looking at Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zach Charbonnet. That's going to be the range. If Will Levis were to fall, oh my gosh, I would love it. If we could get Will Levis 109, a quarterback that, yeah, probably has a very low floor, but at the same time, maybe has a really high ceiling, top 10 NFL draft pick that has some kind of rushing upside. I mean, that would be beautiful. 111, I think you're going to get a crap player. I'm not excited about 111 at all. I think you're probably going to be looking at like Zay Flowers or Jalen Hyatt or Sean Tucker. If one of those day 3 running backs or day 2 borderline running backs ends up finding himself with some surprising capital or a good landing spot. But anyway, one thing that I wouldn't mind trying right now is approaching the owner of like Deshaun Watson, in my mind, a quarterback that can be elite from both a redraft and dynasty perspective, and going, hey man, I will give you Kenny Pickett, the 109 and 111 for Deshaun Watson. You're essentially getting 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. If you could go through and sell that to him, I would be very interested. I mean, if we're going to be looking at other quarterbacks we could potentially try to make that play for, maybe you go ahead and maybe you try to make that play and go get... Kyler Murray's just difficult because we wouldn't have someone to start at the beginning of the season when Kyler Murray presumably misses the first stretch of games. I don't know. Can y'all take a guess in the live chat for me? Can everybody please go to the live chat real quick? I want to read this out. If you had to put it in a probability standpoint of us offering an owner Kenny Pickett, the 109, 111 for Deshaun Watson, and trying to sell it to him as just saying, hey, we're just going to give you 3 first-round picks equivalent of value for Deshaun Watson. What do you think the probability in a percentage term is of that getting accepted? Please spam the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. Okay, just give us a little bit of time. I know we have a little lag. We're over 150 people out here. LML says 30%. NJ says 78%. 78% seems a little aggressive. I'd say it's definitely not that high. I mean, I would love it if it was a 78% chance of getting accepted. David says 25%. Yeah, in my mind, I think I'm going probably like 40%. Because there are a ton of Deshaun Watson trades that I get. I mean, every time I send out like a tweet saying, hey, making a trade video, drop your trades below, it seems like the majority of trades, or the most traded player that I've found this offseason, has been Deshaun Watson. I feel like it's because there are people on one side of the spectrum saying that are willing to go out there and say, oh, Deshaun Watson can be a top 3 quarterback in a fantasy, blah, blah, blah. And there are people on the other end of the spectrum where they're really worried about what we had this past year. And I mean, if you can understand why, I mean, I drafted Deshaun Watson in the first round of a lot of startup drafts this past year, but I don't know. I just think you putting yourself in a position to trade for someone that you could understand why the owner would be willing to let them go. Like if we sent that offer for Lawrence, the Lawrence owner never taking it in a million years. We send that for Justin Herbert, never taking it in a million years. But you could kind of understand the point of view from the Deshaun Watson owner on why they would look to do something like that. But I think that's it for this breakdown. Again, thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I genuinely do appreciate it. And as always, if there's anything that you want to see on flockfantasy.com that is currently not there, or if you think anything can be improved, we do have some big time improvements coming tomorrow for people. But anything else, reach out to me. Please let me know. I'd be happy to send it over to the developers ASAP and see if we can get that going for you, my friend. But thank you again for everything. Okay, so now let's swing over. Let's find our next team. So find this next one, of course, flockfantasy.com, ladies and gentlemen. Get my Dynasty rankings. Get the Dynasty rankings of all your favorite creators, exclusive videos, live streams, podcasts, articles, the whole 9 yards. Ants. Get your team broken down by yours truly on a podcast when you sign up with promo code FLOCK. But let's go ahead and let's look at Moose Goose here. Thank you, my friend, for sending this out. It's going to be a 12-team Superflex tight end premium. Tight end premium is actually going to be 0.75 points per reception. So, you know what? I'm actually probably not going to be able to do this team because I don't see a bench with that. I know Moose Goose would want us to look at his bench as well. He's been a long time member of the flock. So we're actually going to have to skim over that one right now. We're looking for ones that we can easily pull up on Discord. Okay, so C4 Bandit. Let's go ahead and let's pull this one up. Thank you, my friend. This one instead is going to be a 12-team league, PPR Titan Premium. YouTube would be fun. My first Dynasty league, and would love to get out of the hole we dug ourselves in. Okay, so I see this a lot. If someone joins their first Dynasty league, sometimes they get a little too trade happy and they just go nuts and possibly blow up a Dynasty team. And then the next year we're having to say, you know what? We're just going to have to shut this down. We're just going to have to go ahead and we're going to have to play for 2024. But anyway, let's pull up the league settings before we even have a sneak peek with the team here. This is going to be a league where we are getting 4 points per passing touchdown. We are getting a full point per reception. We are getting big play bonuses. It looks like the biggest play bonuses are going to be coming from the receiving perspective. Let me hide this so y'all can see this exactly. But I mean, if we're looking at it, if you're getting a 40-yard rush, you're only getting 1 point. But if you're getting a 40-yard reception, you're getting 3 points. And if you're getting a 40-yard reception touchdown, you're going to get a total of 7. You're also getting a point for every 20-yard reception. So the bonuses actually make an impact here in my mind. Usually we just kind of ignore the bonuses, say doesn't matter too much. But here in particular, I think that we should probably be planning on putting wide receivers in our flex spots. Yeah, I would say almost every single week we will want wide receivers in our flex. I mean, going over and looking at even just other bonuses we have as well. So, I mean, if you just have one wide receiver with a nutty game, you could just see a ridiculous amount of points. I mean, going over here and looking at the bench. Okay, we don't have any rookie picks. It's going to be tough. But anyway, let's go ahead and let's pull this up. At quarterback, we are going to be rolling with Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, and Trey Lance. Okay, so you know I'm a big Trey Lance guy. Yes, I am a big Trey Lance guy. I'll be the first person to admit it. I do want to say, I think this quarterback room will be much better this next season than where it was this past year. I think Trey Lance is a quarterback that has an incredibly low floor, but at the end of the day, the reasons we are excited about him, rushing upside, and the team surrounding him still exist. Still a quarterback with a lot of rushing upside. Still a team surrounded by possibly the best roster in football, or one of the best rosters in football, and one of the best coaching staffs in football. Dak Prescott definitely struggled this past season. I actually think the addition of Brandon Cooks almost perfectly aligns with what you would want from a wide receiver coming over to the Dallas Cowboys offense. I think that Brandon Cooks will actually make a noticeable difference here in Dallas, and I am very excited about that. Russell Wilson, I did not like him last year. I thought the price was egregious. I thought pretty much everybody in Denver was massively overvalued. But if we are going to be fair to Russell Wilson, we could tell a story on how maybe this year is different. You have Sean Payton coming in to possibly fix him, first off. On top of this, Russell Wilson saw Javonte Williams go down at the beginning of the season last year. He saw Tim Patrick go down for the entire year. He didn't get to play a single snap with Tim Patrick. Both Cortland Sutton as well as Jerry Jeudy missed games. KJ Hamler missed half the season. And Albert O was injured. So if you looked at the projected starting lineup for that Denver Broncos team back last June versus what they were rolling out in October, completely different. So maybe an upgraded coaching staff, maybe actual weapons now being there could turn Russ around. I don't want to act like Russell Wilson is someone I'm going all in on by any means. Hell to the no. But still at the same time, I think you're in a fine situation there. Now, going over to running back, I mean, we are in a great spot. We have Jonathan Taylor. We have Kenneth Walker. I mean, in my mind, both of these guys are tier 1 running backs. I have JT and Kenneth Walker. I think right now at running back 3 and running back 4 in our overall dynasty rankings, but you're getting a very nice combination with those two players of both short-term production as well as long-term value. Like, I really like where we're standing with JT and Kenneth Walker. Going down to the bench, nothing to talk about. We really have no depth at running back whatsoever. Keep in mind, we do have Rachaad White as our running back 3, though. Not wide receiver, we're rolling with DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Brandon Cooks. And down on the bench, we have Elijah Moore, Odell Beckham Jr., Tyquan Thornton. In my mind, none of whom are wide receivers that we can comfortably rely on this upcoming season. I'd say the same thing with Velus Jones Jr., but overall, what I'm a little bit worried about is going back to the bonuses that we are looking at with this league in particular. I think that you have to go through, and I think you have to be playing wide receivers in your flex spots in this league. If we're planning on throwing some running backs in the flex, I think we are going to have a very difficult time. I think you're going to need to go wide receiver in the flex spot almost every single week to have a shot. Just given the fact that, I mean, one big play from the wide receiver position can bring you in 7 points. Like from a points per game perspective, I'd imagine that every wide receiver in this format should be seeing a bump of 3 to 4 points, given the fact that you're even getting bonuses for just like a 20-yard reception. So if you're getting a bump of 3 to 4 points per game, that's a big difference through the course of the season. So I would like significantly better wide receivers, almost top to bottom with this team if we were going to feel comfortable about competing. Tight end, we have David Njoku. I'm going to ignore Gerald Everett. I don't think he's anything. I don't think Irv Smith Jr. is anything, sadly, at this point either. So we're rolling with David Njoku. I think it's going to be a fine player at tight end. So overall, if we were to grade this team, quarterback, good. I think it will be better than last year. Running back, great. JT, Kenneth Walker, you're in a phenomenal spot. Tight end, okay. It doesn't really matter. Wide receiver is the weak spot on this roster. And at the same time, I would make the argument that this is where we can't afford to be weak given this league format. So I wouldn't mind at all if we went to go through and we looked to sell either Jonathan Taylor or Kenneth Walker. Now, if we were to go through, if we were to try to find a decent price point to be selling these guys at, what I would really want in return is I would really want like a low-end wide receiver one in Dynasty. And then also at the same time, I would like an extra future pick. So let me go ahead. Let me go over to flockfantasy.com and pull up my rankings. Just give me 1 second. Just trying to get a sense. I won't even pull up my rankings. Let's pull up the average rankings across everybody's. So that's the Dynasty Land Football, myself, Fantasy Stock Exchange, Fantasy Endgame. And if we're going to be looking at just these overall rankings, I mean, we have, say, down there is borderline low-end wide receiver 2s, Christian Watson, wide receiver 20, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver 19, Debo, wide receiver 21, Michael Pittman, 22, Jordan Addison down there, 24, Treylon Burks, 23. I mean, if we were to go through, if we were to try to target one of these low-end wide receiver 2s, say, you try to go out there and get Treylon Burks, you try to go get Michael Pittman, and then also a 2024 first, I wouldn't mind trying to sell one of the running backs at that price point. I think it would make us less competitive this year, but specifically, I think that this is a wide receiver premium league. So if we could say, honestly, maybe even shoot a little bit higher than that, sell Kenneth Walker for Michael Pittman, a 2024 first, second, third, I think that this trade could give you more flexibility down the road, while at the same time, in this format in particular, I think that mid wide receiver 2 like Michael Pittman Jr., just as an example, may actually put out the same amount of points as Kenneth Walker, given the weird scoring format that we have. But going over to the rookie picks, we're going to be rolling with, I mean, I don't like the situation we find ourselves in, if I'm going to be honest. 202, 302, 402, 202, I think you're going to be boxed out of a lot. I think that you could possibly be looking at Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs. You're not going to be able to get really anybody else. If we could have either wide receiver making it to us at the beginning of the second round, going back to this being a wide receiver premium format, I would like that. 302, 402 is just going to be essentially a complete crapshoot. So I think that you can go ahead. I think that you can figure it out, my friend. I don't know. I don't know how I can tell you right now exactly who we are going to be looking at the 302. I mean, of course, the second we have the NFL draft, I mean, we're going to go through, we're going to have those super deep Dynasty rookie rankings, and we'll have exactly who you should be taking there at that point. But as of March, it's very difficult to project out that far. But thank you again, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I really hope that you were able to get something from this. Thank you again for everything. And as always, if there's anything I can do to make flockfantasy.com better for you, do not hesitate. Reach out to me immediately. We have a big update coming tomorrow, which I'm very excited about, but I'll send it over to the developers. Any idea that you have to see if we can get that going, my friend. But let's go ahead and let's pull up a Double D's team here. Thank you so much again, my friend. It's a 12-team Superflex league that my hometown started last year. Tight end premium start 10. Just traded for Wilson and Burrow. Very excited about the future of the team. Any advice is appreciated. Thanks, Mason. Feel free to use this in a video. No, thank you so much, my friend. Pulling up the scoring here will be an interesting spot. And that's going to be a 6-point passing touchdown format. You are getting -1 point per pass interception, -2 per pick 6. You're getting some big point scoring on top of this just for big plays. Going down to receiving, not too much to discuss. I would say the primary thing that we need to be looking at overall with this league is just going to be the full point tight end premium that we are going to be getting. This isn't an extra ½ point per reception for the tight end position. This is an extra full point per reception at tight end. So in my mind, I think that this makes a difference. I think that you can actually go through. I think you can actually look to flex tight ends in this league. And seeing that we have Kyle Pitts does make me very excited. This is a monstrous team. Okay, so let's go top to bottom here. Quarterback, we have Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, 2 first-round startup picks. We have Trey Lance as well. It is a little disrespectful, I'll say, having Lance down here on the bench, Fields in the starting lineup, but that's just me, my friend. Anyway, phenomenal spot to be in. 2 quarterbacks with a crap ton of rushing upside, as well as a true cornerstone asset at the quarterback position. And now, this is going to catch you by surprise, most likely, but I would actually probably advocate for selling Justin Fields in this format in particular. It's a 6-point passing touchdown league where, in my mind, the difference we should be making in a 6-point passing touchdown league in comparison to a 4-point passing touchdown league is in the 6-point one. What I think we should be doing is I think we should be trying to sell rushing upside and possibly go through and see if we can get some quarterbacks that can provide us passing volume at a discount. Because in a 4-point passing touchdown league, it'd be very difficult for, say, Trevor Lawrence to be able to catch up to the amount of points that you are just getting from Justin Fields and that rushing upside. But if you're playing in that 6-point passing touchdown league, if Lawrence goes out there and truly does crush, he should have no issue catching up and surpassing the quarterback with the rushing production, but not the passing volume. So if we could go through, and in my mind, already seeing how damn loaded this team is, if we could sell Justin Fields, DJ Moore, and go get either Justin Herbert, go get Trevor Lawrence in a 6-point passing touchdown format, I'm selling the rushing production. I'm buying the passing volume. Now, going over to running back, we have JT, Travis Etienne, 2 elite level running backs. We don't need to talk about that at all. Going down to the bench, we don't really have anybody. I mean, we have Jarrett McKinnon, but it doesn't really matter because look at how nasty this team is. We have the 101. So this is a team that has Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne. We have 3 of the top 5 running backs in Dynasty. What am I supposed to say here, my friend? At wide receiver, we have 3 of the top 5 wide receivers in Dynasty. We have Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Garrett Wilson. Nothing I can say there. Really nice that we have Jamar Chase as stacked up with Joe Burrow, of course. And then going down to the bench, I mean, we're in a position where we don't have much depth, but does it matter? No, because we have the 105 and 106. So we're going to be able to bring in Jackson Smith and Jigba here as well. So I think you're in a very comfortable position there. Tight end, keep in mind, it's a full point tight end premium format. So it actually does matter having that elite level guy in my mind. Having Kyle Pitts, beautiful. Tight end 1 in Dynasty, obviously bad this past season, but in my mind, the fault is not on Pitts. The fault is on the Atlanta Falcons offense. It was the 3rd worst passing offense we've had in the past 10 years. Literally the 3rd worst. So I think that we should go ahead and probably buy low on Pitts every chance we get in this kind of format, especially when we just have this kind of value, because Kyle Pitts, in my mind, will be a borderline top 5 tight end in 2023, but the man's literally younger than Zay Flowers, so he's only going to continue to get better, and that's the exact prototype of a player that we want and we can actually afford when we have this kind of ridiculous capital. Going over to the rookie draft, we're taking 101, Bijan Robinson. We don't need to talk about it. I think we already know it. 105, 106 will be interesting. I think here, 105, you're most likely going to be taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. If you really like 106, I think it's going to be down to Will Levis or Jahmyr Gibbs. What's very interesting is I want to say, okay, well, you don't have any need at quarterback. We have 3 great QBs with Burrow, Fields, and Lance, but we don't need any help at running back. Like, what is Jahmyr Gibbs doing for us when we have Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, and Travis Etienne? So it's almost just we have the luxury of going full best player available. 109, we're going to be looking at wide receiver. You're most likely going to be a Jordan Addison. You're most likely going to be Quentin Johnston in that range. 111's interesting because there you get the teardrop. There you're going to be looking at guys like Zay Flowers usually, but specifically because we have the full point tight end premium format, I actually would not mind if 111, we decided at that point to maybe pivot over a bit and start looking at like some tight ends here. Like maybe looking at Michael Mayer, for instance, if he has a good landing spot, like going over to the Los Angeles Chargers. And I usually don't recommend drafting rookie tight ends, but this team is so damn good. And with this format, if we're getting the full point extra per their reception, I don't mind going that direction at all. But overall recap, phenomenal team. Love it. Because it's a 6-point passing touchdown format, let's sell some of the rushing production with QB. Let's buy someone that can possibly lead the NFL in passing. Let's go get Justin Herbert. Let's go get Trevor Lawrence. I think Lawrence in particular would make a ton of sense for this team because we are already building around the Jacksonville Jaguars offense. We already have Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley. So we go through, we sell DJ Moore, Justin Fields, go get Trevor Lawrence. Then all of a sudden we have the Lawrence, Ridley, and Etienne stack. So yeah, this is an obnoxious team, my friend. I wish all my Dynasty teams look like this. If they did, oh my gosh, that's life would be good. Life would be good, ladies and gentlemen. But I think we may actually have. Let me see how many teams we have in general. Yeah, let's go through another one here. Let's definitely go through another one. Let's go ahead and let's look at, I believe, Mikey's team here. I'm sorry if we're skipping over one of your teams. It's just, it's the easiest window share if they're broken up into 4 pictures like this. So I'm just trying to do that right now so I don't have to switch the live stream stuff around. But anyway, Mikey, thank you, my friend, for being a member of the flock. It's the team name, Chase the Burrow, 10-team full PPR Dynasty, 1 quarterback league, 21 roster limit, no taxi squad spots, 3 IR slots. So 21 players are being rostered in a 10-team league. So 210 total players across the entire league are going to be rostered here. So I would say that we should probably be going studs. You actually may be able to find some players we like off the waiver wire in this format. It's not like there's going to be nothing available with the waiver wire. I think that we are I'm just trying to have a good way to put it. I don't want to say it's like a keeper league. It's like halfway a deep keeper league, halfway a dynasty league, if that makes sense. Because keep in mind, the dynasty leagues that I'm used to playing in, you roster about 30 guys, usually with the tax squad, we're rostering about 35 guys in a 12-team league. That's 420 players being rostered. That's double what we have here. And that actually will fundamentally change how we are going to be building out our teams, because it's hard to draft like a rookie in the 3rd, 4th round with long-term expectations and hold them for that long in general. So we will need to make those adjustments. In terms of making any adjustments here with the league scoring, 6-point passing touchdown format and 1 point per 20 passing yards. In my mind, it's going to make us want to go for pocket passing options a little less than rush first options in comparison to a 4-point league. And here at quarterback, we're rolling with Joe Burrow. So we are in a phenomenal spot. So we have Joe Burrow, in my mind, literally perfect guy for this format where, yeah, he doesn't have all the rushing upside in the world, but Burrow could easily lead the NFL in passing yards, easily lead the NFL in passing touchdowns. And with this kind of scoring setup, that's very valuable. And going back to what we were discussing with this being that 10-team league where we only roster 21 guys, it looks like it's including kicker and DST. So it's even shallower than we initially thought. And to go along with this, we are going to be only starting a total of 8 offensive players. So only 80 players on offense are started on a week-to-week basis. So yeah, this is just going back to what we were saying. Depth doesn't matter that much in this format. Just studs. Burrow, quarterback, we're in a great spot. I mean, going over to the bench, Kyler Murray, great spot. I mean, Kenny Pickett, you're never starting him, so it doesn't really matter. Going over to running back, we have JT, Saquon Barkley, both of whom could easily be the running back 1 overall in fantasy this upcoming season. Obviously, they're a little older, drafted in 2018 and in 2020, but they're still very strong options at the running back position. In terms of the depth we have at running back, we have Rachaad White, but in my mind, this is kind of GTO with how we're going to be building in this kind of format. Going through and having the two true, I mean, we have Dalvin Cook as well, but having those 2 truly elite level assets and not worrying about the depth too much. Wide receiver, we have Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett down there in one of the flex spots. Then on the bench, we have Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson. See, in my mind, the Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuks of the world in this format, not going to make that much of a difference for us whatsoever. Like, we know at the end of the day, their ceiling will be severely capped. So if we were able to go over to one of these rookie picks, like the 105, who in this format would be like Zach Charbonnet. And if we could trade, say, like the 105 and Brandon Ayuk to go get the 102 to get someone like Jackson Smith-Njigba, who we actually think could make a real difference in this league, I actually would like that as well because, I mean, we are in a position, especially, we're adding Bijan Robinson to this team. So our starting lineup will be Taylor, Barkley, Dalvin, Bijan at running back and flex. We're going to have to just sit Tyler Lockett, Ayuk, Deontay Johnson every single week. Occasionally we can play them through the buys, but then we're also going to be adding these mid-round 1 picks in. So I would just love to take one of those depth wide receivers, package it with a mid first to go and get an early first. I mean, we're just in a great spot. Tight end, I actually do value highly in this league, even if it's not going to be a tight end premium format, specifically because we're only starting 8 guys. In my mind, just the percentage of your starting lineup output the tight end will account for here on a week-to-week basis will be higher than those leagues where you're starting 10, 11 players and you have a bunch of flex spots where we're going to be going through and putting in wide receivers. So I really like having Dallas Goedert here as well. Dallas Goedert has improved every single season of his NFL career. So I don't know, my friend. I think that this is a great team. What can we do with this team? We're adding Bijan Robinson to what, in my mind, probably is already one of, if not the best teams in the league. I would say like the really only thing we could do is try to start moving these rookie picks up by selling wide receiver depth, even if we're selling at a discount. Like what I would kind of like to do is possibly go through and maybe if we don't do the 105 deal, just sell the 108 in Brandon Ayuk and go get the 103. Go get someone like Jahmyr Gibbs, if that makes sense. Where the Brandon Ayuk, the Deontay Johnsons of the world, they're just not moving the needle with this team. Even though they're good players, even though they have name appeal, you're just so strong with this roster. I don't see how we really ever need them. I'm trying to come up with anything else for you here, my friend. I'm trying to come up with stuff, but just going back and like illustrating the point of how it's going to be difficult to just roster players for 3-4 years without them being productive. So we're adding in 4 rookies right now with this rookie draft, right? And assuming that we're not going to be putting those guys in the taxi squad spot, or you said there are no taxi squad spots. So we would have to drop 4 guys. So the 4 guys we're going to have to drop, we're going to have to drop Zach Moss, Hassan Haskins, Calvin Austin, and David Bell. So just for example, we drafted David Bell probably in round 3 last year. So the second you get nothing from him, because this format's so shallow, you have to cut bait. You don't get to see how it plays out. So every deal we need to be making 2-for-1 deals, get the best player in return. But I think that should be it for this. I wish I had more, but it's just a very, very strong team. Thank you again, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I genuinely do appreciate it. I see you actually out here in the chat. You know, of course, if you want anything improved on flockfantasy.com, I'm the guy to reach out to. I'd be happy to get that done for you. But thank you so much for everybody that hung out with us this fine Sunday. Really hope that you have a great day. I really hope that we were able to make your Sunday better just a little bit. And thank you for everybody that's a member of the flock. I truly do appreciate you. Yeah, just again, thank you for everything, guys. I really hope you have a great day, and I really hope we get to see you with the video, or I'll probably do a live stream tomorrow.